What's up guys, Andrew Bainey here, and on today's video we are going to be checking out the brand new 2020 Schecter Blackjack C-7. This is a 7-string guitar and one of the newest offerings from Schecter. They were kind enough to send one over to me. Big shout out to Adam, thank you so much, man. So while this guitar may look kind of plain because it is gloss black, I promise you it's got tons of awesome specs and features that we will talk about in just a little bit. But as always with my demo videos, first and foremost, I'm going to show you guys how this guitar sounds in a full demo mix, and then we'll dive into all the specs and show you the individual tones that I got. So with all that being said, here is a full demo mix in drop A with the Blackjack C-7. So now that I've shown you guys what this guitar sounds like in a full mix, before we get into the tones of this instrument, we're going to talk about the specs and features of the Blackjack C-7. So first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier, this is a gloss black guitar, so it doesn't necessarily have the most interesting finish of all time. However, it seems like what Schecter was trying to do with this model was not necessarily go overboard with the looks, but instead give it, you know, more of a little bit of a plain or subtle look, but bump up the features a lot. So most notably, the things that really stand out in this guitar are the dual Lundgren M7 pickups. These pickups are most famously used by Meshuggah's guitarists, and damn do they ever sound great. In addition to that, there are also stainless steel frets, which most Schecter import guitars do not have. So that was another unique feature that's different this time around on the Blackjack C-7. And of course, they have the Schecter branded locking tuners. These pretty much feel exactly like Grover locking tuners to me. I'm not sure if that's what they are. It just says Schecter locking tuners, so it's their own brand, but they seem to look, feel, and work just the same as any other locking tuners, so that's good. So with those features out of the way, let's go over all the other specs of the instrument, starting with everything to do with the neck. So this guitar features an ebony fretboard, mahogany 3-piece neck with carbon fiber reinforcement rods. It also has these custom inlays, which are dual lines that reverse halfway up the neck, which looks pretty cool. I like this a lot more than some of Schecter's other inlays when they seem to go a little bit overboard with like the bats or the Roman numerals or like the fleur-de-lis or stuff like that. I'm not personally into that aesthetic, so I personally prefer something like this, which is a little more unique but still very subtle. I think they look great. The scale length is 26.5 inches, so it's a slight baritone length, but nothing too crazy. It's not 27. 26.5 is pretty standard for 7-string guitars. In addition to that, it has a thin C neck shape. Like I said earlier, it has 24 jumbo stainless steel frets. And last but not least, it has a Graphtec extra large black tusk nut. Moving on to the body of the guitar, this guitar features black chrome hardware. The body is made out of mahogany with cream multiply binding. It has a Tone Pros T3BT Tune-O-Matic bridge with string through on the body. And of course, the neck and the body are connected via set neck with Ultra access. Moving on to the controls, as I mentioned earlier, this does have dual Lundgren M7 pickups, and as for the controls, it has a volume for the bridge, a volume for the neck, and a tone knob, which also has a push-pull feature, which gives you a split coil feature. And in addition to that, of course, it just has a 3-way pickup selector, meaning bridge, bridge and neck, or neck only. I also want to give another big thank you to Schecter because they also sent me over this beautiful looking case, which honestly is almost more fancy looking than the actual guitar because it's got that nice blue velvet looking inlay that looks really, really sick, especially when this guitar is in there. The blue and the black just pop off each other so nicely, and it's always fun to open the case and get a look at the guitar in there. Before we move on to the guitar tones, there's one more thank you that I must give to my friend Hunter. You might know him as Agufish. Most of the time I'm getting my ass kicked by him in Halo, but every once in a while he likes to help me out. So in this case, he's the one that got me hooked up with Schecter. So Hunter, thank you, man, if you're watching this. I owe you one less team kill next time we play together. So that's on me. Don't worry about it. Don't mention it. You're welcome. Okay, so now with the features and specs out of the way, I'm gonna go through and show you guys each guitar tone that I was using during that intro song, in addition to what gear I was using to get each tone. Okay, so we are first going to start off, of course, with the rhythm guitar tone, since this is the focal point of this song and pretty much every song I've ever written, let's be honest here. So as I mentioned earlier, this guitar is in drop A tuning. I believe the stock strings that came with the guitar are Ernie Ball 9 to 62, which in my opinion is great for drop A. That's already what I use on all my other guitars, so I was happy with that, and I didn't change the strings at all. So for the rhythm guitar tone, I was using the bridge pickup only. Nothing special going on, tone full, volume full, and I was going into this Rev G20, which you can see on my desk here. Shout out to Rev for hooking me up with this amp a few weeks ago. I've been using it a lot, and it sounds great. So there was not really any farther post-processing I did to this tone, and it sounds like this. So as you can hear, these Lundgren M7s completely crush on rhythm tones. I can totally see why Meshuggah uses something like this. They sound great in my opinion. Again, this is the bridge pickup only. I didn't have any other pedals on or anything like that. It's all from the Rev G20 and it sounds chef's kiss, beautiful. Okay, so there is an alternate version of the rhythm guitar tone just in the middle of the song with the clean guitar going over top of it. So all I did for this was the exact same amp settings, but I simply enabled the coil split, so that's by pulling up on the tone knob, and that gives me the innermost coil on this Lundgren bridge pickup, and that just kind of gives it more of like a Strat, like spanky type tone, if you will, and it sounds pretty awesome, and it sounds like this. So yeah, the only difference between the main rhythm tone and this one, again, is just activating that coil split using the tone knob. I just wanted to give it a little bit of variation in the middle there, especially when that clean guitar tone comes in. I thought it'd be nice to have the rhythm guitar change up a little bit as well. Also, I wanted to make sure to show you guys all the features of this guitar, so I made sure to use the coil tap in there. Alright, so next up we're going to move on to the clean guitar tone. This only makes a very small appearance in the song, but I thought it sounded really good. For this one, I was using the Cory Wong plugin by Neural DSP. Absolutely love this plugin. And as for guitar settings, all I did was switch it to the middle pickup position, which is just activating both of the pickups at the same time. And it sounds like this. Next up, we're going to talk about the lead guitar tone. For this tone, I was using the neck pickup only, full tone, full volume, so nothing crazy going on with the controls. And this tone was created using the Archetype Plini plugin, again by Neural DSP, and it sounds like this. Okay, so now that we've gone through all the tones that I got with this instrument, the last thing to talk about is what do I actually think of it? So my overall impressions of this guitar are definitely positive. This guitar retails for approximately $1,400 US, so it's certainly not on the cheap or mid end. It's like the the mid-high or maybe high range in terms of how much guitars go for these days. I think that what makes this guitar interesting is, like I was mentioning earlier when I was showing the specs, it's not necessarily the most fancy looking guitar. You know, usually people associate plain gloss black finishes with a cheaper guitar, and that's certainly not the case here, since again it is $1,400 US, quite expensive. However, I think it's really interesting what Schecter did in terms of making a guitar that looks more plain but has way higher specs. So again, at that price range, yes, you're only getting a gloss black finish. However, you're also getting stainless steel frets, locking tuners, and Lundgren pickups, again being the main three highlights of this guitar. Also, not to mention, man, this back of the neck being satin is super cool, and something that I kind of glossed over when I was talking about it earlier. So overall, my impression of this guitar is that it's definitely worth it. Again, those Lundgren pickups absolutely scream. The only thing that I personally don't particularly love about this guitar is the tune-o-matic bridge. I don't necessarily hate tom bridges, but on 7 strings and 8 strings or standard range guitars, I do tend to prefer those hardtail bridges, something like a hip shot or something like that. Those are usually my go-to, not necessarily a tune-o-matic bridge through construction, but I know some people actually really like that because most 7 strings don't have that. So that's a personal thing that really is up to you. I just don't really like tom bridges in particular because they tend to give you a little more sympathetic ringing, because of course there's that extra part of the string that hangs over the body. However, with that being said, I mean, you can just throw a piece of foam in there to get rid of that, so it's not that big of a deal. But if I had to be nitpicky, that's the only spec that I personally didn't love about this guitar. Okay guys, that'll do it for this video. If you are interested in learning more about the Schecter Blackjack C7, or perhaps getting your own, check out the link to Schecter's website. It's in the pinned comment as well as the description. Also, once again, a huge thank you to Schecter for sending me this guitar and sponsoring this video. I really appreciate it. It's an awesome guitar and I can't wait to play it some more. I also want to mention a huge thank you to my Patreon subscribers whose names are on the screen at this point in time. If you guys are ever interested in getting a shout out on the screen, audio downloads, guitar tabs, or stems, you can find all of that over on my Patreon page. So if you want to try out this guitar through your own settings, you can get the DIs and all the other stems on my Patreon if that interests you. Go check it out. That's all I got to say. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I look forward to reading all of your comments, and maybe we'll see some more Schecters in the future on this channel. I don't know.